Tragedy suffocates Shu like thick smoke. The ravages of rebellion, of banditry, and of the feathering disease leave only chaos. Though countless tales echo, some of the most lamentable manifest in the characters Bai Wuchang must confront and ultimately destroy to alter the course of destiny. Their rich stories are complex, demonstrating that reality is not so black and white as one would hope. Worship's rise, its temples and sanctums, have been decimated by monsters and brigands. 3 blights descended, and though the first blight, in the form of warlord Zhang Shanzhang, has left Worship's rise, the other 2, bandits and feathering, linger.
Well, you've managed to snag Dutanga's treasures. Oh, quite the feat, I must say.
The story of Dutanga is one of passionate love spurned and the lengths to which a madman will go for his desire. He leads a roving band of opportunists who plunder Worship's rise, but Dutanga wasn't always a criminal. In years past, the man was a performer and traveled Shu with theater troupes to impress onlookers. His echo sorcery tells us Dutanga's spell, based on an old fire-breather's stage trick, and he likely learned this in his travels. In fact, an outfit of Shu's theater performers can be found within Dutanga's quarters, hinting at the man's origins. It could be during this time that he first laid eyes on the actress Feng Xiaowan and fell in love with her.
Apparently, Dutanga had a thing for the actress Feng Xiaowan. He was quite fond of her. But she was already married and had twins. But did that stop him? Not in the slightest.
When the Ming dynasty collapsed, lawlessness broke and rebels and brigands stripped Shu of its resources. In the chaos, Dutanga saw an opportunity to gather riches and also claim the woman he desired. Tomb raiders, disguised as monks, Dutanga and his underlings raided the Lights-In temple. Yet the feathering broke out, and with no more provisions, their only choice was to turn to cannibalism. Dutanga's men found themselves surrounded by monsters and illness. They barred the door to the Lights-In temple to save themselves from plague. But limited by supplies and driven by hunger, they transformed into a different sort of monster. The fake monks and thieves began cooking and eating the dead, and when only feathered corpses remained, turned to the living. They captured the weak and the helpless, women and children, and cannibalized them. Some of his own men, fearful that they would be next, willingly subjected themselves to the feathering so that no one would desire their flesh. As for Dutanga himself, he kidnapped his beloved Wan from her family in the Shu courtyard and brought her to Lights-In. Now, Wan's fate is a mystery. Wuchang finds Dutanga standing over the woman's spirit tablet, which suggests her death. Whether she claimed her own life to escape the deplorable Dutanga, or whether the thieving man was forced to eat her isn't quite certain, but an excerpt from his diary hints at Wan's deep melancholy. Dutanga, unable to find the love he sought, vented his fury upon those he found. The raging flame he summoned was a reflection of the fury consuming him. Feng Xiaowan's husband made a daring attempt to save her, but fell wayward in his task. The man can be found wielding fire close by. The man desperately tried to save his wife, but in the end, he contracted feathering and succumbed to madness. In hard times, it's the strong that survive.
The Shu Sanctum has more than one priest, you know. Word has it that there are 2, Lu Bingzhang and Lu Bingcheng. Twin brothers, believe it or not.
Lu Bingzhang was a beacon of religious light in Worship's rise and a great scholar of history permeating Shu. In fact, it was the man's fascination with the past that ultimately led to his undoing, and perhaps even that of the entire region. He and his twin brother Lu Bingcheng had access to the ancient Shu site beneath the sanctum, where they no doubt uncovered artifacts of the lost avian bow. The Shu Sanctum key, which exchanged hands over the centuries, has written on it Great Feathered One and Bow, 2 allusions to the legends of avians. Forbidden knowledge twisted Lu Bingzhang's mind, and as his study became obsession, the man renounced his previous religious beliefs. Lu Bingjiang, consumed by the powers he sought, cast aside his past duties and beliefs. This negligence allowed the remnants of the ancient Shu people to resurface and unleash the feathering upon the world. The priest dabbled in powers beyond his comprehension and awoke a long-dormant race. His actions are responsible for the arrival of the Beau Magus, who quickly seized an opportunity to draw on Red Mercury's power to fuel an avian ritual that brought forth the feathering. Even as Red Mercury consumed him, Lu Bingjiang clung to his dream of restoring Shu's former glory. His devotion first drew the Magus' whispers, and in the end, it bound him to the featherings. So Lu Bingjiang set into motion the events that would lead to Feathering's outbreak. As for himself, the man's body and mind were racked by the maddening influence of Red Mercury. He transformed into a monster and lost himself. When the Ming troops and Imperial Guard under Commander Hong Lan came to Shu in hopes of learning the secrets to resurrection, they confronted the priest within the sanctum. They chained him alongside other feather-afflicted, tortured him, and extracted information that led them to pursue the avian ancient chisels. Having learned the secret of resurrection, the Imperial Guards imprisoned Lu Bingjiang at the Shu sanctum. Within its walls, Red Mercury corroded his mind. When Wuchang finally finds this priest, the man is no longer. He's been completely consumed.
The elder brother, Lu Bingjiang, oversees the vault, likely where they brew their secret elixirs. Oh, rumors say he kept a monster hidden below. A group of Taoists even tried to exorcise the thing.
Lu Bingcheng, the second of Shu Sanctum's priests, preferred the underground catacombs, the depths of which hid his experimentation with elixirs and potions. Here, he also learned what he could of the ancient bow. Rumors swirled that he'd uncovered more than just knowledge locked in those crypts. For an unknown time, Lu Bingcheng tended a massive centipede demon hidden in the sanctum's tunnels. With his death and subsequent barring of the crypts, it slinked uncontrolled through the cavern system. A traveling group of Taoist demon slayers, whose members included Huang Jiane, failed in destroying Lu Honglu within the low courtyard and lost a sacred artifact of their masters, known as the Trinity Bell, which possessed the power to dispel demons and madness. To redeem themselves and also plunder the alchemical secrets of Lu Bingcheng, the Taoists led a small party of disciples into the catacombs. They uncovered knowledge on many elixirs, but fell foul of the massive centipede.
Sister, I've gathered the elixir ingredients. All of this feed your veins.
One unfortunate Taoist was killed and absorbed into the creature. His body remains attached to its carapace, and the cave opening is filled with many other dead, as well as Taoist wards. Huang Jiane lost her spirit and sacrificed her fellow disciples to the centipede demon to cover her own escape. The painful memory of betrayal can be heard in the demon's boss fight.
Lu Honglu has her father to thank for what she's become. Her father, back when he was the coroner, raised her on the flesh and bones of the dead. No wonder she turned into such a creature.
The demon found in Worship's Rise courtyard is a creature born from pain and suffering, tied to the fates of the Lu family.
When he finally married and had a daughter, the baby died soon after birth. The loss broke him, but he somehow found a way to resurrect her. Yet, what returned wasn't his daughter. It was unnatural, a monstrosity.
Lu Yusan, the Undertaker, was forced to bury his own wife and daughter and fell into profound depression. This is when he learned of a ritual of resurrection from a Taoist sage, and hope inspired Lu Yusan. He performed rites and brought his darling daughter back from the grave, but her rebirth was destined to bring about calamity and death. In the smoldering ashes of the Lu estate and its connected cave, we see remnants of a child's playroom. Here we find a manuscript detailing an unexpected, gruesome change in Lu Hongliu. She grew too fast. Feathers, claws, a beak emerged from her body, and Lu Hongliu was filled with rapacious hunger for the flesh of the living. Claw marks deep in the cave signify the spot of her ultimate transformation. But Lu Yusan couldn't move against his own daughter. He loved her in any form and couldn't bring himself to harm her. The Undertaker kept Hongliu a secret for a time, but eventually her hunger and her evil won out, and she attacked helpless humans. Official Lo organized a band of villagers to confront Lu Hongliu and other feathered monstrosities. From scraps and pieces smoldering in the inferno, we can assume the peasant rabble responsible for the fire that burns through Doomwillow. They assaulted the Lu estate, immolated Lu Yusan in the flames, then tried to slay Lu Hongliu, but the monster broke free from their encirclement and cut a path of destruction upwards towards the town. Instilled with her voracious appetite, Lu Hongliu devoured many villagers and took up a nest in the law courtyard. Here, a second attack was launched against her, this time by traveling Taoists from Zhenwu Temple, but she proved too much even for them, forcing the group to flee and taking from them their Trinity Bell. She remains until Wuchang confronts her. The resurrected monster retains only a thin resemblance to humanity and the child she was. The torment Lu Hongliu suffered was neither asked for nor deserved. Her innocence resonates in the lore description of her echo. Since her father perished in a raging fire, Lu Hongliu has oft mourned heartbreakingly under the moon, like any ordinary person. Even a man-eating demon can yearn for their loved ones.
They say that the corpses of those who fall to feathering are left here. Piles of corpses rotting on these shores. The trees themselves have mutated because of it.
A group conspired to perform a ritual, pouring all the red mercury extracted from the corpses at Doomwillow Beach into the soulwood, transforming it into a demon. Long before the feathering struck Worship's Rise, Doomwillow Beach had been a reverent, peaceful strip that followed along the water's edge. The dead would be buried, words in their memory hung on to the willow branches of the massive all tree that grew here. But generations of tradition were destroyed when plague and monsters ravaged the land. The flow of dead from disease and attack was too swift for survivors of Worship's Rise to compensate. Unfortunate souls that succumbed to feathering were given neither funeral nor proper burial, as hysteria gripped Shu. To quarantine the plague as best they could, the people of Worship's Rise began disposing of bodies in Doomwillow. The once serene landscape grew corrupted with death and red mercury. It transformed into a dumping ground of rot and refuse, a place toxic to the living, filled with the miasma of the dead. When villagers attempted to confront Lu Hongliu and other monsters in Doomwillow, they set the beach alight, and it's been burning unnaturally for months, fueled by spiritual malice. Surrounded by poison, the all tree withered and died. But a mysterious group took interest in the soulwood. The soulwood, born atop a mountain of corpses, appears to be a human creation. The creator of this implement appears to have used magic to continually infuse it with red mercury. It's possible the Bo Magus, whom we'll discuss later, is responsible, as she performs a ritual at an altar shrine, and we hear this from Tao Ching.
And the tree? Corrupted by death, it now hungers for the living. They say an altar there is the source of the unholy soulwood's awakening.
The soulwood was given new, wicked life as the reborn treant. The thick slurry of flesh and blood it spews out carries a liquid that corrodes life itself, tainted by the deep-seated hatred of the dead. A quintet of stories surround the sovereign and his generals who become adoptive sons. Zhang Shanzong is inspired by a real-world historical figure of the same name who rose to prominence during the waning days of the Ming dynasty. He was a peasant leader who organized rebellion against Ming rule. wrested control of southern China's Sichuan province, declared himself first king of the West and then emperor of the short-lived Qi dynasty. Many deaths from massacre and famine are attributed to Zhang Shanzong, with some more modern estimates stating nearly 75% of the roughly 3 million people left or lost their lives. The Zhang Shanzong of Fallen Feathers is just as ruthless and bloodthirsty. Before descending upon Shu, he united the 4 heavenly kings under his banner, greatly strengthening the rebel forces in southern China. While his allies attacked other strongholds, Shanzong focused his attentions on Shu, his ancestral homeland. In a fell stroke, the rebels razed Shu, slaughtered the Ming garrison, and Shanzong styled himself sovereign and emperor, but his rule soon crumbled. Zhang Shanzong's reign as emperor of Shu was brief, and he passed away soon after ascending to the role. In his wake, the 4 heavenly kings continued their relentless struggle for power. Zhang's 4 sons and heirs scrambled to restore their father's hard-fought glory and unite the rebels once more. Ai Nengqi and his men invested in a siege of Cloud Spire, the last Ming holdout, and during the months of attrition uncovered ancient, profane rituals that filled him with hope of his father's resurrection. A stranger visited the sons and told them of the Bo people's ancient chisels, of Red Mercury's power, and an art to bring Zhang Shanzong back to life. Li Dingguo was too suspicious and the hurt of his father's death still too raw for him to partake. He and Sun Kewang left and drowned in a drunken stupor at the bottom of a bottle. Ai Nengqi and Liu Wenshu, however, seized the opportunity. The northern general learned that Madame Huang of Snowfall Palace held such an artifact, and he colluded with her against the Ming in exchange for it. Liu Wenshu, the southern general, took his men to Zhenwu Temple, the rumored location of another chisel and vaults of Taoist knowledge. Unfortunately, the brothers' plans came to naught. Ai Nengqi was betrayed by the Madam of Snowfall, who had no intention of relinquishing her chisel. He had also suffered an earlier wound while raiding Lightsen Temple that had never healed. Lightsen and Worship's Rise were ground zero for the feathering outbreak. No doubt, Ai Nengqi contracted this disease, and as his body withered, he retreated into his tent. Confusion hangs throughout Ai Nengqi's camp. None have seen the rebel lord in days.
Sir, the general hasn't left his tent for days. Should I perhaps bring him some food?
When Wuchang confronts him, we witness how the feathering has stolen his mind and transformed his body. Though Ai Nengqi has descended into madness, he retains the memory of his father and also of the woman who has wronged him. Liu Wenshu finds more success. He and his brigands swarm like locusts over defenseless Zhenwu Temple. They set it ablaze, massacre the Taoists, and plunder archives where they learn the Taoist method of wielding lightning. He also gathers up members of the Nine Lotus Path and forces them to perform incantations ceaselessly to aid the sovereign's return.
I just received the news that Liu Wenshu and his men butchered the Taoist priests and seized the temple. They're plotting something. I know it. Liu Wenshu is as cunning as he is cruel.
Liu Wenshu gets what he desires, and with the ancient chisel, begins rites to resurrect his father. Hundreds of bodies feed pools of blood to a sea lily structure that channels power from Red Mercury and the chisel to fuel the sovereign's revival. Only too late does Liu Wenshu realize he's been deceived by the stranger that visited. Only too late does he understand his father is gone. The monster that's returned shares little resemblance to the man who was. In the fight against the southern general, we see Liu Wenshu's mastery over lightning attacks, and we hear that his deepest desire wasn't necessarily to carve out an empire, but to share one last drink in memory with a father who left too soon.
Father, I wish I could.
Wuchang disrupts the ritual and in the chamber finds Zhang Shanzong's body has been fused with that of a fearsome tiger. This is another small reference to the real-life man, who had a tiger chin or an impressively thick beard and was nicknamed the Yellow Tiger. Tigers also symbolize royalty, authority, and power, all possessed by the sovereign before his death. Only in the second phase does the sovereign appear, and the struggle against him is fierce, but destroying the monster allows the tormented spirit of a cruel man to rest once more. During this family saga, Li Dingguo and Sun Kewang keep their distance. An inebriated Dingguo at moments resigns himself from involvement, while at other moments wishes to clear his father's name and memory.
After the death of our foster father, Ai Nengqi and Liu Wenxiu led their troops here, bringing nothing but destruction. Now they lie in the ground. Dingguo and I will head to Yunnan and rebuild our forces, just as father wished.
Li Dingguo's questline ends at the ferry overlook, and depending on Wuchang's actions, he leaves Shu either as a friend or can be confronted and fought as an enemy. In either case, Wuchang receives his feathering longsword. The rebels aren't the only faction in pursuit of the ancient chisels. Loyalists to the crumbling Ming Empire, chasing whispers of immortality and rumors of resurrection, come south to Shu in hopes of restoring their dynasty's fading glory. Zhu Yujian, the Chongzhen emperor, was the last ruler of China's Ming dynasty. His empire couldn't withstand pressure from internal rebellions and external invasion from the northern Manchu people. When rebels besieged the capital of Beijing, Zhu Yujian is reported to have had his children killed before he committed suicide by hanging himself from a tree. With his death, the Ming dynasty collapsed and was eventually replaced by the Manchu Qing dynasty. 3 individuals, fiercely loyal to the Chongzhen emperor's memory, escaped to Shu and searched for the lost bow artifacts to revive their fallen lord. The Ming general Liu Cheng'en, the commander of Imperial Guard Hong Lan, and the queen consort Yu Xia. Commander Hong Lan and Yu Xia arrived with a detachment of Ming troops and Imperial Guard, and after establishing a temporary base around the Reverend Temple, sought to uncover clues of the ancient chisels and their bow creators. Faced by bandits and feathered sick, Hong Lan carved a path of blood to the Shu Sanctum and set a perimeter of Ming troops, ostensibly to guard refugees and survivors, but the truth is that Shu Sanctum's twin brothers held vital knowledge of the bow. From a missive left on an Imperial Guard's body and from the lore of items associated with Lu Bingjiang, we learn that Hong Lan had the priest tied, tortured, and then left for dead within the sanctum. From him, they extracted information on the whereabouts of an ancient chisel, which next brought Hong Lan's forces to the desolate Tang Emperor's palace. As Wuchang approaches, we can hear in conversation the Ming trying to uncover something secret on the palace grounds.
Keep searching. Tear this place apart if you have to. If we don't find it, we're as good as dead. Yes, sir.
With the search for the chisel, Hong Lan demonstrates both her ruthlessness and her fidelity, if not to the emperor, then especially to Yu Xia. In fact, a burning but unrequited love for the queen consort consumed Hong Lan. In the brocade bag gifted to Hong Lan by Yu Xia, we hear, the inner lining holds 2 strands of hair tied together in an intricate knot, a symbol of the love and union of 2 souls. That which Hong Lan seeks is none other than Yu Xia. Such a relationship was impossible, not only because same-sex romance was largely taboo, but because fate had worked to position Yu Xia as queen to an emperor. But Hong Lan's desire to please her love continued, and Yu Xia later contemplates on whether she manipulated such emotions and blinded Hong Lan to reason during her quest for Zhu Yujian's revival.
How did this happen?
When the commander and Wuchang cross blades, Honglan stays her hand, recognizing the family heirloom of Governor General Bai Tingzhao, and recalling his devotion to the Ming. With the chisel in their possession, Yu Xia and Commander Honglan attempt to coordinate with Liu Cheng'en and the last remnants of Ming rule in Shu. Liu Cheng'en was one of the Ming's most capable and fearsome generals. Several years before Zhu Yujian's death, the emperor sent Liu to fortify the Ming position in Shu and repel increasingly brazen rebel attacks. Liu Cheng'en deemed the lofty Snowfall Palace and surrounding fortresses of Cloudspire perfect defensible positions and established himself as de facto governor of the region, much to the disquiet of Snowfall's Madame Huang Yan. News of the Chongzhen emperor's death had a peculiar effect on the Ming general.
With the Ming dynasty crumbling, he could have easily carved out his own kingdom. Instead, his loyalty binds him to chase the impossible: resurrection.
Death could not break the bonds of loyalty, and Liu Cheng'en turned the memory of Zhu Yujian into a rallying cry for all Ming forces around Shu. His desire for imperial revival coincided with Commander Honglan's mission, and the pair forged an alliance. Duke Liu and Honglan shared a singular ambition to restore the emperor and revive the Ming dynasty. More recently, Chang'an has worked as a castellan of Snowfall to repel the siege of Ainengqi. In Wuchang's confrontation with the general, we see how strongly he holds on to his old master's legacy. Liu Cheng'en carries the Chongzhen emperor's wooden soul tablet on his back, which houses the emperor's spirit. And the silk scarf that hangs from a tree is a visual allusion to Zhu Yujian's death by suicide. Ming plans are foiled, however, with Liu Cheng'en's defeat at the hands of Wuchang and with the capture of Commander Honglan by the Madam of Snowfall Palace. The commander languishes in Snowfall's dungeons, but escapes with Wuchang's assistance, and the two women now clear a mutual indebtedness. Honglan isn't seen again until red sea lilies erupt from the earth around Worship's Rise, and the ancient avian bow sow chaos as they perform rituals to restore their people's lost glory. In the pits of Doomwillow, amongst graves, corpses, and monsters, the tragic depths of Commander Honglan's fall are fully realized. Now consumed by the feathering disease and undergoing a bodily transformation, we're left to wonder what exactly led to the creation of vermilion feathers, Honglan. Completely beholden to her love, Yu Xia, the commander sacrifices herself to the queen's cause. When they arrived in Shu, the pair came with Zhu Yujian's coffin, which they hid within the burning caves behind Reverend Temple. After acquiring ancient chisels and conferring with the Taoist Xuan Yangzi, Yu Xia wished to perform a resurrection and bring her husband back from death. Perhaps out of suspicion of the Taoist, or else in abundance of caution, it could be that Honglan volunteered herself as a test subject. An experiment to see if they could truly wield the powers in their possession, and her transformation was the result. Or perhaps it was simply the feathering radiation caused by close contact with the chisels that spurred Honglan's mutation. We hear of this in the lore description of her echo spell. To honor that woman's long-held wish and say goodbye to the smiling face in her memories, Honglan braved danger, risking her own life to gather relics and red mercury. Yet deep down, she knew those feelings would never be returned. In either case, the commanders become something unique, not mindless like the other feathered, but also not completely human. She bears the name Vermilion Feathers because the vermilion chisel was used in the ritual around Zhu Yujian. Honglan's ability to overcome the feathering's madness is quite rare and attracts the attention of the enigmatic boatman.
Oh, that poor, pitiful girl. Fallen so far. Yet her heart clings hopelessly to her infatuation. But her fate was sealed long ago. After all, there would never be a happy ending for her and her beloved.
Her love consigned Honglan to this fate, but perhaps in its strength is the key to transcending the disease and truly evolving. Both Liu Chang'an and Commander Honglong played their part and paved the path for the Chongzhen Emperor's resurrection. But as we've seen with every character who's attempted to use the chisel's power, in part rather than as a complete artifact, the outcome is disastrous. The Returned, a demonic form that encases the Emperor's body, was born of the desperate attempt by Yu Jia to restore the Ming, and of the ambition of Taoist Shuang Yongzi, who goaded her into the revival ceremony. The Returned is fearsome, but not the Emperor's final form. After its defeat, the Dragon Emperor Zhu Yujian is given shape. This monster speaks, possesses the Emperor's memories, and is motivated by a desire to restore honor to his name. The dragon has long symbolized imperial power. In the reborn Zhu, man and myth are forged into one. The Ming Emperor's body was encased within this demonic form, only for it to be exploited in an experiment for another's ambitions. Whether the reborn being is truly the son of heaven or a mere puppet remains unknown. The lore again hints that Zhu Yujian's revival was used to further Chuan Yangzi's own designs, which we'll discuss later. The Emperor's physical body can be seen encased in an embryo, but the monster's death unleashes an explosion that ultimately prevents his revival and kills his consort. Within the deep recesses of the avian forest, an ancient evil lurks.
They say that their dead are placed in hanging coffins, where apparently they grow wings and take flight when the time is right. Rumor has it they fly toward nearby forests. Over time, stories of the Great Feathered One began to surface.
Folklore of the Great Feathered One is an allusion to the god of Shu and the spiritual leader of the avian bow, the bow sorcerer. Millennia ago, the ancient kingdom of Shu was blessed by its primordial deity, and the bow people transcended mortality to become the immortal bird-like race known as avians. But vanity and hubris pushed the bow to meddle with red mercury and violate the sanctity of natural law. For their injustice, ancient Shu fell to ruin, and the avians were stripped of their power, hunted to near extinction by the humans of the region. Nearly 1,000 years ago, the White General, Zhao Yun, a mythical figure from China's Three Kingdoms period, who secured stability for the Shu Han dynasty, led his soldiers against the remnants of the bow.
The White General, instilling fear in one and all with his mere presence. With his heroic stature and in the wake of his mighty steed, peace fell once more.
Known among the common people as the Undefeated General, a title earned at the expense of countless lives. Though he retained his supremacy upon entering Shu, the land ultimately became his nightmare. A penultimate battle unfolded in Zhenwu's claustrophobic mountain passes, where fighting was chaotic and the death toll immeasurable. Catacombs stacked with bones of the fallen pay homage to the loss of life, and spirits of the dead, the ghost warriors, linger. These warriors perished in Shu over 1,000 years ago, yet, under the influence of red mercury, their corpses remained preserved, their restless souls wandering the land, until they are called forth by the 9 lotuses. Zhao Yun pushed the bow into the surrounding forest, and in this serene glen, fought the final battle of the conflict. This is the tomb of the bow. We find etched into this massive rock a glyph of the ancient avian, and studding the field are Taoist symbols, no doubt used by exorcists and demon hunters to preserve the magic woven in victory that seals the immortal avians in their tomb. The White General dispersed what few avians remained and took from them his prize, the cyan feather chisel, one of the fragments of the avian's ancient artifact, likely held by the bow sorcerer. The chisels are cursed, objects that consume their bearers, and over grueling centuries, Zhao Yun would slowly lose his mind. His spirit would shatter, yet his body would remain preserved. and immortal torture as penance for his desire for the chisel. What few Bo were left gathered around the sorcerer, who led them into an isolated, uncertain future within the avian forest, where they would preserve their ways as best they could and prey on any humans who ventured into their lair. When Bai Wuchang journeys to Shu 1,000 years after these events, she comes across a white-robed elder who struggles against insanity and is consumed with hatred for the bow and those afflicted by feathering disease. Met several times throughout Shu, he's on the trail of a monster in the avian forest who uses spells and illusions to deceive her prey.
For days I trailed the monster. It led me here, where illusions grow more frequent. I must be close to its nest. This here.
And he asks us to join in his quest in destroying this monster. The white-robed elder is the white general of old, Zhao Yun, who through guilt over the death of his men, remorse over his taking of the chisel, and strength of will, has continued to walk these lands for centuries. His spirit will not rest until one valiant enough to assume his mantle arrives. The monster he seeks is his ancient rival, the bow sorcerer. To assist him in the avian's destruction is the trial necessary for Wuchang to prove her worthiness as his successor. The elder is summonable to assist in fighting the sorcerer, who demonstrates a mastery over magic that the ancient avians once possessed. In fact, she's likely the last remnant of the ascended avians, what they once were in form and force. She's colorful, graceful, and ruthless, quite unlike many of the almost feral and starved avians we see elsewhere. In her echo sorcery we hear, created as a tribute to the legendary avians of old, said to borrow upon the avians' power to control all things during their golden age, creating clouds and rain at a whim. With the sorcerer's death, the white-robed elder is one step closer to a final repose. He rests amidst the memories of his past in the avian tomb, and tells us to return only after we've uncovered the truth of Shu. This truth is discovery of the ancient bow capital buried beneath Shu, and also revelation surrounding the ancient chisels. When Bai Wuchang next returns, he offers her battle as Zhao Yun, a chance to prove her mettle and assume his mantle. He's been waiting for someone to inherit his will since his memories returned. Loyalty and unwavering courage are more than mere words, they are the essence of his legacy. With his death, Wuchang acquires the elusive fifth chisel fragment of the avian artifact and has a complete set. United, the instrument promises the potential for Wuchang to fulfill her own desire and resurrect her fallen sister Bai Yu. Interestingly, the echo of Zhao Yun states that it's especially potent against one's inner demons and foreshadows a dangerous confrontation. Whenever death resets her causality and madness completely descends, Wuchang is forced to face the physical manifestation of her inner demon. These demons share an appearance with and are inextricably tied to the plain warrioress. First met in the dream during the opening moments of Wuchang's journey, the warrioress gives her Bai Tingzhao's sword, Cloudfrost's Edge. She appears throughout Shu offering cryptic messages and obscure designs. Small breadcrumbs are dropped as Wuchang progresses, but it isn't until much later that the complete picture comes into focus. The plain warrioress and the inner demons are the same being, and all of them are the lingering essence of Bai Wuchang herself. Time and causality are closed around Wuchang and Shu. She plays out a cyclic dream and is caught within the turmoil of samsara, a Hindu and Buddhist concept of the wandering, endless cycle of life, death, and reincarnation. The current Wuchang is only the most recent of countless iterations of herself, chained by obsession and desire to relive events until she attains enlightenment. Cause and effect flow in an endless cycle, like the unbroken turn of a wheel. The so-called inner demon is but the lingering mark of those ensnared in reincarnation, unable to break free. The warrioress and Wuchang's demons are manifestations of her human emotions, her strong desire to bring Bai Yu back to life, her inability to accept reality and let go of obsession. They're Wuchang's inner turmoil made tangible, and each one of them represents the failings of a past Wuchang. Two demons set themselves apart by their power: the Nightmare Demon and the Demon of Obsession. Inside the law courtyard of destroyed Worship's Rise, the Nightmare Demon awaits Wuchang. She stands before a macabre diorama of the Bai family manor, the swing made not of wood, but of the corpses of hundreds of past Wuchangs. Dozens of other dead Wuchangs litter the courtyard. The woman's nightmare isn't necessarily her death, but rather her failure. She desires Baiyu's return even more than her own life, but the goal can't be achieved if Wuchang were to fall. Then, deep in the ruins of the Bo capital, near the altar of Samsara, Wuchang confronts the Demon of Obsession. This is the most corporeal iteration of Wuchang's inner demons, and she demonstrates a mastery over Bai Wuchang's arsenal of weapons and catalog of spells that suggest her experience. Even after 1,000 journeys through endless dreams, she never let go of her obsession, reviving Baiyu. This demon only manifests if Bai Wuchang has gathered all 5 shards of the ancient avian chisel. This is the closest Wuchang gets to succeeding in her mission, and the demon represents the greatest temptation to give in to her obsession. But success in this matter is an illusion. Even as a complete artifact, the chisel won't return the spirit of Baiyu, and her body would be an empty vessel. True success lies in letting go of the desire and allowing Baiyu's memory to rest. An interesting note about the Plain Warrioress is that her chest is scarred by an avian symbol that denotes rebirth. This hints at Wuchang's own revival, but also might suggest that in a past life, Wuchang indeed tried to perform the ritual of resurrection. And concerning the manifested demons, they initially speak in a backwards, incomprehensible language that's only ascertained in a second playthrough after Wuchang learns truth and inverts causality. Much of Hill's Watch and Cloudspire lie impoverished and abandoned, but the great Snowfall Palace maintains its opulence even amidst the chaos. Its ruthless madam is Huang Yan. Snowfall was once ruled by a lord. He was caught in Huang Yan's web of power and soon married her. Not long after she moved to court, the master of Snowfall fell ill and died. His death went unsolved, but Huang Yan poisoned her husband with her insect swarms to take his powerful position. Madame Huang Yan's secret insectomancy art, honed through years of meticulous training, allows her to command the insect swarm as if they were extensions of her own body. So skilled was she in this secret art that Huang Yan used insect venoms to control the minds of her maids and servants. We hear this in the senior maid's scarf. These maids arrived at Snowfall Palace with the madam, each possessing remarkable martial prowess. Empowered by a secret technique, their loyalty is unwavering and absolute. And also in the long boots of Snowfall's prison wardens. A girl, once sold to Snowfall many moons ago, she was controlled by the madam through red mercury-infused insectomancy, eventually becoming her most loyal servant. These tales illustrate hungry ambition and cunning. After seizing control of Cloudspire, the madam employed every means at her disposal to expand its influence. Snowfall sits atop a vast reserve of red mercury, rich with crystal veins, and the new madam exploited them to fill her coffers. Snowfall Palace rose to power through the wealth gained from extracting and trading red mercury from their mines. When all of Shu learned the vitality-boosting and physically enhancing effects of red mercury, every region from Worship's Rise to Zhenwu and beyond clamored for the substance, and Huang Yan's treasure room glittered with wealth. Not just avaricious, Huang Yan obsessed over her beauty and sought desperately to arrest aging, or else achieve immortality. Many characters refer to Huang Yan as a witch, a hag, an old woman, all suggesting she's already found methods of extending her life. Perhaps this comes in the shell cup artifact that she carries, a mystical drinking glass that she fills with wine from the red jade bottle, the lore of which reads, its contents seemed to be capable of delaying aging. Huang Yan is also a doting mother to her only son, Huang Chan.
That Huang Jin wretch deserved his fate. It was he who plotted most of Snowfall's horrors. Those poor souls he ensnared.
From what the lore details, in evil, he is his mother's match. The young man uses his privileged position to prey on his subjects. Countless women were mutilated, reassembled, and twisted into grotesque monsters to fulfill the young lord's vile desires. For these poor souls, death was likely the only mercy. They craft monsters to do their bidding and make gross amalgamations of flesh. From this note left in the treasury room, we learn that Huang Chan requisitioned massive amounts of red mercury and elixirs for his research. When Wuchang approaches Cloud Spire, the Madam of Snowfall has set two seemingly conflicting events into motion. First is that her land's been confiscated by Liu Chang'an and the Ming forces, who wage battle with the rebels under Ai Neng-chi. Though she ruled Cloud Spire with an iron fist, the Madam had to dance to the Imperial Court's tune. The ongoing stalemate between the rebels and the Ming may well serve to her advantage. Through missives and false promises, she brokers a deal that will rid her of the Ming and yet preserve her position. Second is that she plans an elaborate wedding for her son. From posts throughout Hillswatch and Cloudspire, the Madam declares that all young and single women make their way to Snowfall Palace for their opportunity to be selected as Huang Chan's bride. They have no choice in the matter, as the Madam's monsters forcefully take them from their homes, and they're never seen from again. Behind the palace, an old mining shaft is transformed into prisons for torture and experiment. Here is where all the women taken from the surrounding region have been placed, forced to endure research and death. Huang Yan's methods of torturing the imprisoned women were brutal and unforgiving. Beneath the shaft, the true horror lies not in the creatures she commands, but in the lost human souls trapped within. Mad doctors undertake a gruesome process of assembling limbs and fragments from the prisoners to create their bride. One woman was chosen, however, to act as the canvas for their work, Fang Ling.
This van belongs to Fang Ling, Master Fang's daughter, doesn't it? Master Fang used to be a merchant at Cloudspire. We did some business together. We were well acquainted. I heard his daughter was taken as a bride by the Madam of Snowfall Palace, and she was never seen again.
Fang Ling took under her wing a girl with a shared surname called Fang Yao while they were imprisoned. Though they call each other sisters, they might not have been direct relatives, as Fang Yao describes her father as an apothecary who died in Hillswatch, not a traveling merchant. Ling protects Yao and ultimately helps her escape the shaft. Fang Ling, however, dies under experimentation. Madame Huang Yan had in her possession the Jade Ancient Chisel, an artifact that could resurrect the dead, and also research notes that hint at Snowfall Palace's resurrection method, which is believed to be tied to events involving the Bai family from years past. One half of the wedding party has just died, and for all its pomp, the wedding celebration hides the fact that by the time Wuchang reaches Cloud Spire, Huang Chan is already dead. The exact circumstances of the boy's death are mysterious, but the pre-patched description of the red jade wine reads, "A bottle carved from red jade. A few lines have been scribbled onto the bottle. In the silence of my quarters, I pray and wait. My son, the Madam's secret is one that must not be mentioned." And the post-patch lore offers a poem of loss and mourning. It could be that he died from red mercury exposure and feathering, caused by his own experiments. So, a mother's grief and her desire to see her son married push Huang Yang to resurrect both Fang Ling and Huang Chan in a macabre ritual at the bottom of the mine shaft. Her plans didn't go accordingly. Huang Yan, the Madam of Snowfall Palace, sought to mold Fang Ling into the perfect bride. Unaware of the object's dark origins, she was transformed into a monstrous being. We see the skeletal remains of wedding officials, musicians, and courtiers lining the chamber, and we hear from the lore of bitter severance. During the bloody wedding, the bride separated them, turning the blades into weapons of slaughter, each infused with an unshakable resentment. The tarnished copper gilding is speckled with hardened bloodstains, remnants of a gruesome experiment. Once simple tools for cutting, these two blades now stand as lethal instruments of revenge. Even more tragic were the fates of husband and wife. Joined in matrimony, Fang Ling and Huang Chan now became fused in body. The snake-like head that emerges from Fang Ling is the transformed essence of Huang Chan. Though she retains control and a shred of her past life's memory, when Fang Ling's defeated, Huang Chan erupts completely, and they become the monstrous chimera. A chimera is a mythical being of mixed genetics, an amalgamation of several fused creatures. This name hints at the union of husband and wife. A monster awaits Wuchang in the realm of dream. The lingering trauma of her youth marked indelibly onto her psyche. Despite appearances, this demon, Bai Kru, is connected to Wuchang and the disaster that destroyed her family manor. Bai Tingzhao, after having been appointed Governor-General of Shu by the Emperor, arrived alongside his family and established himself in a manor house just off the ferry shore. Governor Bai was loyal to the Ming and executed his duties well. His personal life was blessed by two daughters, Bai Ziyun and Bai Yu. Desiring a son to continue the family line, Bai Tingzhao and his wife tried for a third child. Buzzing excitement surrounded the boy's coming, which can be heard in fleeting memories of Bai Yu.
Do you think our baby bug will look like us? I'm so excited to meet him!
As well as the lore of items crafted for the honorable son. But as the due date approached, disaster struck the house of Bai. For reasons unknown, Bai Tingzhao's wife fell ill and continued deteriorating late into pregnancy. The Governor-General came to Zhenwu Temple to procure elixirs to save his son, but cared little for his wife's state. Concerned for her mother's health, Bai Yu requested this elixir from their leader to strengthen her mother, both body and mind. Her father, however, thought of the unborn boy, ignoring his wife's plight as she grew weaker with each passing day. The boy was born as Bai Kru, a frail thing, and it cost the mother's life. Bai Tingzhao buried his wife as he anxiously sought to protect his son and legacy. Death wasn't finished with the family, and Bai Kru, in a few years' time, followed his mother to the grave. Bereft of wife and of heir, Bai Tingzhao fell to despair. Madness overtook him. The man was filled with an obsession to reunite with his son. As Governor-General, Master Bai was privy to all of Shu's secrets, including legends of the avian chisels and their whereabouts. A scroll within Zhenwu Temple elaborates on his discreet raid of their treasures. The Governor-General had unleashed forces he couldn't comprehend. The chisel reanimated his son's corpse, but transformed the toddler into a demon that rampaged across the estate. Ziyun took her sister Yu and the chisel and escaped the crumbling household. Burdened by guilt and remorse, Bai Tingzhao sacrificed himself and confronted the creature of his own making. He died at the hands of Bai Kru. A tide of memories washes over Bai Wuchang when she returns to the family estate. Pinwheels cover the ground. They were favorites of Bai Yu and likely her brother while he was an infant. A consistent motif throughout Wuchang's tale, the pinwheel symbolizes youthful innocence, but also the loss of precious times that will never return. Beyond the ancestral shrine, the resurrected toddler sits in a serene pool. A pinwheel, the one Bai Yu made for Bai Kru on his day of birth, rests. We see Bai Kru hesitate and acknowledge Wuchang, or at least the pinwheel, suggesting some remnant of the young boy remains trapped in this prison. As Wuchang's fight with her brother unfolds, we hear the dialogue of past memories surrounding his birth and their mother's death. If not celebration, Wuchang at least gains closure upon slaying the monster and putting Bai Kru to rest.
The ancient Bo people hail from this land, and the Magus brought them to worship's rise. She was seduced by power, and her actions have cursed the world.
The Bo Magus is one of the more interesting and mysterious characters with a background that's obscured by myth. The lore gives room for two different accounts of her tale, and though it may favor one, the other is also plausible and up to interpretation, so I'd like to present both cases and let you decide. Millennia ago, the Bo tribe of ancient Shu revered and communicated with the primordial deity and were thus blessed. They transcended to become the Avians. But the Bo were too grasping. Ambition drove them to create red mercury at their Avian altar, a substance they used with their chisel artifact to warp space and time, to defy the natural law of the cosmos. Durial, king of ancient Shu, realized the harm of red mercury and warned against its use, but he struggled to sway his people against the faction that promised divinity through the crimson substance. And it could be here that the Bo Magus first made a grand appearance. A zealot, a reformist who lured the Bo with promises of salvation that concealed her true desires. We hear of the Magus' heresy in the lore of the divine blessing spell, a spell used by worshippers of the god of Shu. Only those with the purest faith can wield it. However, while the woman who taught this ritual claimed to be the Magus, she'd secretly altered the sacred teachings for her own ends. These ends are likely her ascent beyond even Avian to reach true godhood. The Bo Magus dress is described as ancient. The bracelets, baubles, and accessories she wears are from antiquity, and their likeness has long since disappeared, suggesting that the Magus was indeed a power from the time of ancient Shu. When Durial couldn't convince his people of their folly, the king abandoned them to their fate, and the Bo Avians were soon destroyed. Their capital was swallowed by the earth, and in cave inscriptions we learn that the bodies and spirits of the Bo were likewise trapped, preserved in slumber underground for hundreds of years. Further support for the Magus being a part of this time are the frequent mentions to her rising from the depths of the earth. The Avian Hunter's armor tells us, trusted agents of the Magus, Avian Hunters were often dispatched to the surface to carry out clandestine missions. While her Bo Magus crown reads, the mysterious energy pulsating in worship's rise provided her the chance to lead her tribe back to the surface, guided by her unwavering faith. So one can intuit that the Magus was a member of ancient Shu and dwelled for hundreds of years in the buried necropolis. An alternative history suggests that the Bo Magus is a newcomer, a descendant of the ancient Bo, but not actually one of their number, or at least pertaining to the physical woman Wuchang interacts with. From the successor of the Bo ending, we see the power of the Bo staff on full display. As Wuchang grasps for it, the staff consumes her as dozens of hands reach out to possess her. The spirit and conscience of the Bo Magus are bound in the staff, and it's the Magus' insidious influence that dominates mortals and bends them to her will. In this light, the Bo Magus we see could simply be a human vessel for the eternal Magus, or even the long succession of Bo Magi throughout history. This woman, after all, isn't an Avian and demonstrates not even subtle manifestations of the feathering. How could she be one of the ancient Bo? The heresy of the divine blessing spell might refer to the Magus' break from the Bo sorcerer, not from Durial. Unimpressed with her leadership and wishing to reclaim the Bo's former glory, the Magus turned her people against the sorcerer. Driven by an unyielding desire to restore her people to their former glory, she spared no effort, no matter the cost. Though she rebelled and took control of her kin, her faith in the god of Shu remained as unwavering as stone. No matter her past, the Bo Magus first appears as the red-clad lady near Reverent Temple. She searches for her mystical staff, Once in her possession, she travels to the toxic Doomwillow Beach, where the red-clad lady can be found performing an ancient ritual. Suffusing the land with red mercury fuels the growth of the red sea lily plant and lays the foundation for the Magus' grand design. She unleashes a devastating avian attack on Worship's rise that coincides with the eruption of massive sea lily structures. The Bow people are led by the Magus, whose dark influence led them down a path of destruction. Their return to the surface, followed by a brutal massacre, was all to serve the Magus' twisted ambitions. God guards and avian hunters kneel at altars and draw mystic energy. Deep beneath the Shu sanctum, the Magus stands under the root ball of a massive sea lily. She believes she's a conduit for the primordial deity's will, and this ritual will purge mortal existence from Shu. If Wuchang helps Durial, she can put an end to the Magus' efforts. But if she declines his protection, then Wuchang succumbs to the Magus' aura and becomes inheritor of the bow. The Taoist Xuanyangzi is obsessive and hides his true motives beneath a layer of friendly assistance.
I came upon you in a brooklet some days past. You lay passed out due to the feathering, so I moved you to the cave to recuperate.
Xuanyangzi administers to Wuchang and all the hurt in Worship's rise, ostensibly to find a cure for the feathering, but in truth, to fuel his own immortal ascension. The man was a Taoist who trained and studied in Zhenwu Temple. Here, he learned the art of alchemy and with keen interest sought the knowledge of the celestial masters. The ultimate desire of the alchemists was to refine both body and mind to achieve immortality and enlightenment. Xuanyangzi pursued this to the exclusion of all else, a sentiment echoed in the lore of his Taoist token. In the face of overwhelming forces, Xuanyangzi renounced his Taoist identity. Perhaps from the start, it had only been a disguise. The Taoist travels across Shu hunting down legends and uncovering knowledge on red mercury and the avian chisels, keys to unlocking immortality. But Xuanyangzi is also a shadowy figure that prefers to stalk the periphery of events rather than claim the spotlight. Through manipulation, he gets others to act in his interest or test a theory of his. Any mentions in the lore of a stranger, a wandering sage, an intelligent gentleman, of which there are many, all likely refer to Xuanyangzi.
Years ago, I was tasked with crafting elixirs to bolster the vitality of the Master of Snowfall Palace.
He traveled to Snowfall Palace to research red mercury mines and the disease afflicting the miners, and also to get closer to Madame Huangyan's ancient chisel. Xuanyangzi approached the sons of the sovereign and lured them with promises of their father's resurrection for his own gain.
I couldn't bring myself to lead the army after father passed. Once that fellow visited the commander's tent, Ainengqi and Liu Wenxiu took charge.
The Taoist hoped Ainengqi would take the chisel from Huangyang, and he pushed Liu Wenxiu to raid Zhenwu so that he could gather forbidden knowledge in the chaos. This arcane art is far more intricate than you can fathom. If you truly wish for the sovereign's return, heed my command and let reverence guide your every move. These words are from a letter found on Wenxiu's body, written by Xuanyangzi, so that the Taoist might practice with resurrection and the power of the chisels. His manipulations also infect the queen consort Yu Xia and commander Hong Lang. Xuanyangzi used Hong Lang's love for Xia as a string to bind her during their attempted resurrection of the Ming emperor, and ultimately leads to her feathered transformation. It's even hinted that the Taoist was with Bai Tingzhao during the Governor General's ritual to revive Bai Cru. Wuchang's actions open up the buried ruins of ancient Shu, and Xuanyangzi is allowed access to their structures. He enters the Forbidden Land and takes from its vaults a legendary sword of the Bieling, another ancient race that threatened the avians, and it's suffused with their power. At the avian altar, Xuanyangzi compiles all his ill-gotten knowledge and communicates directly with the primordial deity, transforming into the feathery abomination and achieving his ultimate goal of immortality. If Wuchang gave Xuanyangzi one of the avian chisels, his death isn't final, and the man is quickly reborn. He plunges his blade into Wuchang, then uses her body to distill elixirs to continue his life through another cycle of cause and effect. Thanks so much for watching this video on the bosses of Wuchang Fallen Feathers. Let me know which boss is most interesting to you, and what other characters or events you'd like to learn more about in the comments below. And if you're a fan of lore and storytelling, be sure to subscribe where content is uploaded frequently. I want to take a moment to give thanks to all of my patrons over on Patreon. Their support really helps the channel grow and improve. If you'd like to become a lore luminary for access to me, written scripts, and early video drops, head to patreon.com/thelorebrarians to learn more. Until next time, go forth and explore the lore.